This first edible plant I want to show you is curly dock. Curly dock is a wild grain, and you can actually strip these seeds off and you can grind them in your hands to break up the chaff. Then take these seeds and grind them into flour, or you can boil them in water for a cooked cereal. Another handy plant is sumac. Now this is not poison sumac, but it is related to it. If you're not allergic to cashews, then you can actually make a pink lemonade from the seeds of sumac. Any of the sumac species that have a red colored seed can be used for a nice tasty beverage with a lot of vitamin C. Pick the red seeds off, rub them a little bit in water. Leave them in warm water for 15 minutes or cool water for an hour. Pour it through a strainer and you'll have a really good tasting pink lemonade, a wild pink lemonade. These are wild rose hips. Wild rose hips are loaded with vitamin C. They also have vitamin E, and they're fairly high in calories. Once they get a bright, shiny color to them, a nice candy apple red, then you can eat them right off the bush, or you can crush them in water and use that as a rose hip tea. Just make sure it's a rose hip. Anytime you're dealing with berries, you want to learn what the pulp of the berry looks like. You want to know the entire internal structure of the berry. Make sure it really is a rose hip, and then you can have these as a wild edible snack. A wild edible powerhouse is the acorn. Now a lot of folks think that these are not edible to humans. They just haven't processed them correctly. To process acorns, you crack the shell open with stones or any other means, separate the shell from the nut meat, soak the nut meat in water to remove the tannic acid, which makes them bitter. After they've soaked long enough in water that they taste mild and pleasant, then we can grind them up into flour. You could boil them as a porridge. You could even roast them and eat them just like nuts. One final wild edible is pine. There are so many species of pine all across the northern hemisphere, and most of them are safe for human consumption if we eat the right parts. Pine needles can be chopped up and placed in hot water to make a vitamin C rich tea. We could also eat the seeds from the pine cones. These are pine nuts and they're very high in fat, almost as high in fat as butter. We could also take the inner bark, dry it, grind it into a powder, and use this as a flour substitute. These are just a few of the wild edibles that you can find in your local fields and forests.
For more from Tim McWelch, pick up his Prepare for Anything and Hunting and Gathering survival manuals at outdoorlife.com/McWelch.